All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about Tunisia and its massive waste crisis. But this isn't just a story about trash piling up. It's about a bigger picture. How a huge national problem could actually become a huge opportunity. Let's dig in. So this quote really paints a picture, doesn't it? After the 2011 revolution, things got chaotic. Public services kind of fell apart, and suddenly the waste problem was right there, on the streets, for everyone to see. It literally became this massive, visible symbol that things had to change, and fast. Okay, so to really get a handle on the scale of this, let's break it down. We're looking at about 0.66 kilograms of waste per person per day. Now you might think, that's not a lot, but think about it. Multiply that by nearly 12 million people every single day. Suddenly, you start to understand exactly how those mountains of trash appear out of nowhere. And when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture in the region, it gets even more stark, especially when it comes to plastics. I mean, look at this. Compared to its neighbors, Egypt and Morocco, Tunisia is way up there with the highest rate of mismanaged plastic waste for each person. This isn't just a small issue. It's a really, really steep challenge they're facing. So the big question is, why? Why is this happening? And the answer isn't as simple as people are just throwing away too much stuff. No, the real problem is much deeper. It's baked into the system itself. You've got regulations that are all over the place, not enough money going into waste services, and honestly, a general lack of public awareness about things like recycling. It's a perfect storm. Okay, so we've talked about the why, but what does a broken system like this actually look like in the real world? What are the consequences on the ground? Let's zoom in on one specific example it's a huge problem. And that example is old car tires. Get this, just from passenger cars alone, we're talking about more than 9,800 tons of waste tires every single year. These things don't just break down or go away. They just pile up. It's an absolute disposal nightmare. But here is where it gets really crazy. A huge part of the problem is where these tires are coming from in the first place. A staggering 70%, 70, are smuggled into the country. And these aren't high-quality tires. They're cheap, they don't last long, and so they become trash that much faster. It just seeds this vicious cycle that the official system has no way of handling. So let's follow the journey of one of these tires, right? It comes into the country, usually smuggled. It gets used for a bit. Then it's tossed aside at a garage. And this is where the system completely breaks. There's no formal pickup. So what happens? It ends up in an illegal dump. Or worse, it's burned by someone trying to get the little bit of steel wire from inside. And I want to be really clear here. These piles of tires are not just ugly. They're basically ticking time bombs. When they catch fire, and they do, they release all this toxic smoke. When it rains, they fill with water and become perfect breeding grounds for mosquitoes carrying diseases. And all the while, nasty chemicals are seeping into the ground and the water. This isn't just an environmental issue. This is a direct threat to people's health. Okay, so when you're facing a problem this massive and complicated, you realize pretty quickly that just cleaning it up faster isn't going to cut it. You have to change the entire way you think about it. The real solution starts with a simple but really tough question. Who is actually responsible for all this stuff? And that question leads us to a really powerful idea, a potential solution called extended producer responsibility. You'll hear it called EPR. And it is a total game changer. The basic idea is this. The company that makes or sells a product is responsible for it for its entire life, including what happens to it after you're done with it. Think about it this way. In the old way of doing things, a company sells you something and poof, their responsibility is over. It's now your problem or the city's problem. EPR completely flips that on its head. Now, the producer is on the hook for the whole shebang, from cradle to grave. It forces them to actually think about and help solve the recycling and disposal part of the puzzle. So EPR is a fantastic start, right? Making individual companies responsible. But what if you took that idea and scaled it up? What if an entire economic sector, say a country's biggest industry, which also happens to create a ton of waste, what if they all got together to tackle their waste problem as a team? Well, that's exactly the idea behind something called Extended Sector Responsibility, or ESR. And for a place like Tunisia, where tourism is absolutely massive, this makes so much sense. The tourism industry has a huge footprint, but it also has huge power. So ESR suggests that all the hotels, the tour companies, they all chip in and work together to manage the waste they create. And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky idea. There's a concrete plan on the table called the Tunisia Center that shows exactly how this could work. The hotels would separate their own waste. Then it gets trucked to a central facility that's actually owned by the tourism industry. There, everything is sorted and the valuable stuff gets sold. The whole thing could basically pay for itself. So when you boil it all down, both of these ideas, EPR and ESR, are really pushing for the same massive shift in thinking. It's about moving away from our old, wasteful, linear economy, take, make, dispose, to a circular one. It's about building a smarter system where waste isn't even created in the first place. I love this quote because it just nails the new mindset. In a circular economy, there's no such thing as waste. That old tire, that plastic bottle, that's not garbage anymore. It's a raw material. It's an untapped resource just waiting for its next life. It's simply about being way, way smarter. And really, that brings us right to the heart of it. Tunisia is at this incredible crossroads, and the path forward isn't about pointing fingers. A truly circular economy can only work if everyone shares the responsibility. So the question, not just for Tunisia, but for all of us, is this: how do we actually build a system where everyone, the person buying the stuff, the company selling